vellum today. And I know that a lot of people have questions about vellum. I was so scared of using vellum in the past, but it takes a little bit of trial and error. And maybe I should switch to my camera. If you can just, yeah, please bear with me while I figure out the tech. So, yeah, so I am super excited to do this because vellum is something that, it's so elegant. We love using vellum on our cards. Well, most of us do, but it can be a challenge because, there are so many finicky things about vellum, about, the glue that we can use and how to position different things on vellum so we can hide the glue, embossing, heat embossing, what have you. So I'm going to get started and I'm going to talk about the live stream giveaway in just a second. But before I do that, I just want to share the card that actually triggered it all. This is, let me switch to my desktop view. So yeah, so this is the card that triggered it all. And I had created a YouTube short with this card. And there were I think right now I have over 250,000 views and over 2,000 likes, etc. But the main thing is I have over hundreds of comments and questions on how I glued the vellum. And I'll be very honest with you, this was probably my second card using vellum, and I wasn't sure of the different things. Like I hadn't tried and tested everything out, if I can say that. So I had actually very loosely, maybe I can even switch to my close-up cam to just give you an idea of how I stuck the vellum. If you can see, I hadn't really stuck it down completely. There were two reasons. One is that, of course, the paper is just beautiful. But thanks, Michelle. The paper was beautiful, but also it was a little bit too bold for me to stick a sentiment on top, right? Without the sentiment getting lost. So I thought, why not diffuse it with the vellum? And also, if I just put the plain vellum, it might look a little bit stark and too plain. That's why I chose to emboss the vellum. But if I can show you again, the vellum did crack in places. I don't know if you can see it on camera. It did crack in places. That's where I started kind of experimenting with vellum and, trying different setups, different things. And that's how, when I got all these questions, I thought, why not do like a live where you can ask me questions and I can answer them, in real time and show you a few things as well. So before I get into the actual vellum thing, let me just talk about the giveaway. First of all, thank you so much, every one of you that have supported me and helped me grow my channel. I can't believe that my channel has grown to over 10,000 subscribers now. I'm almost close to 11,000. I couldn't even imagine. This was just an experiment that I was doing for my mental health, and all of a sudden it just took off. So thanks to all of you for my support. And to celebrate that 10,000 subscribers, I thought I'd do a giveaway. So I have two $25 scrapbook.com gift certificates to give away. One I will give away to all the live stream viewers that you don't have to, again, full disclosure, you don't have to stay until the end of the live stream, because I'm not sure how long this is going to go, to be honest, since this is my first time. But one of you will will win that gift card, and another gift card I'll give away for my replay watchers. So if you are watching the replay, you can leave a comment telling me that you're watching the replay. And thank you, Barbara. That's so kind of you. And if you can just let me know that you're watching the replay, and I'm going to pick a random winner, both from the live stream and the replay. And I'm going to post the winners tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, because I'll run the thing until about maybe 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. And then once that is done, I'm not really well equipped to do a lottery on camera. So I will do the lottery after that and pick a winner and post it in full transparency. So I'll post it on my community page, and I'll let you know, how you can receive your prize. And Kristen, thank you so much for joining. Yeah, absolutely. Let's get started because there is actually a lot to cover. But if you have any questions, please, I'm trying to follow the chat as best as I can. But if you wouldn't mind just preceding your question with the word question, that'll catch my eye and I can answer you right away. So let's get started. So there are a couple of things I do want to share with you before we start gluing and everything. Let me switch to my, let me take myself off the camera so you have more real estate. Okay, so these are some cards that I wanted to share with you. The different ways of, using vellum. Maybe you've watched some of my videos and you've seen me make these cards, but I still wanted to show these to you so, I can share exactly what I did with them. So let's start with, which one should I start with? Okay, we've spoken about, so vellum can be used again, as a belly band, just to add some elegance to your cards, especially if you're creating a fun fold or something like that. Yeah, absolutely, Sharon. So, this is something I love doing. If you have fancy fold or fun fold, whatever you'd like to call it, you can use a vellum belly band to hold it closed. And I've just put embellishments here. You can put a sentiment, you can put a die cut, you can do anything, right, to decorate it. And here is the joint. Let me switch my camera again so I can show you how the gluing was done. Okay, please bear with me. I'm still learning the tricks of the trade here of switching cameras. Okay, so you see I have glued the belly band behind the card, right? Now, I could actually put an embellishment here and put it on the front. I could have kept it on the front, but I put it here. But if you can see, you hardly see any glue here. And I've used liquid adhesive. And I'll show you a number of ways that you can, number of different adhesives that you can use. But the most that I use is actually liquid adhesive. It depends on how you use that adhesive that can, make the glue invisible or visible. So that is something you can keep in mind. You don't need, and I'll show you another option for, adhesives, vellum adhesive, but that option is expensive. And I prefer to just have one or two different types of glue and just use it in different ways, So that is one. Let me switch back again. Yeah. So that is one way you can use it. Another way you can use it, obviously, is, for layering, right? So if you look at this one, I have a vellum layer right underneath the sentiment layer. So that is, yeah. So that is another way you can use this. Then this one here, what I did was I created an aperture and I embossed the card front with a different, I don't know if you can see it. Okay, let me switch back. Maybe I should just keep it switched to my close-up cam while I'm explaining this. So if you see, I have one embossing folder that I've used on the card panel, and I've used a different embossing folder to create the aperture. So I just took a circle, I cut it out first, and then I embossed it. Then I created a frame and I stuck it over here. So, it just hides the imperfections and the glue around the circle, right? Around the aperture. So this is another way that you can use vellum. Now this doesn't have to be embossed. You can put something right here on your card base on the inside, maybe a sentiment, maybe a design of some sort, right? And then when you have a lightweight vellum, and I'll show you the different types of vellum in just a sec. So if you use a lightweight vellum, the design behind it will show through. So that is another great way to use your vellum to kind of also, it creates a bit of a surprise element, right? So you have something on the front and then you open it, there's another little surprise in here. So this is another way I love using vellum. This one actually is created with paste. So I used, if I remember correctly, this was Simon Hurley's Astro Paste. And there are a couple of things that I found when I used paste. Now, I can't show you the paste today simply because paste takes a long time to dry, and it wouldn't really make sense for me to show you, while waiting for it to dry, because I won't be able to show you any other technique with it. So here is the card that at the front that I created. So I have, you see, I have a pattern paper behind. I stuck the vellum on the pattern paper on the card front. I used adhesive behind the sentiment and I stuck it down. So that way there is absolutely no way you can see the adhesive, number one. Second is that I used another technique on the vellum, which is the paste, and you can see there's barely any warping. I would say there's almost zero warping. And the trick that I used was, and I wish I could have showed it to you. Maybe I'll do another session with just paste on vellum. The trick that I used was I taped the vellum down before I applied the paste. So I taped it down on all sides and I used my glass mat, but you can use maybe a piece of cardboard or poster board or something. Tape it down, apply the vellum through, I used a stencil, apply the vellum through the stencil and just leave it aside to dry. On the taped onto the cardboard or whatever you're using to tape it down on. So let it dry. You can use a heat tool, but I would use the heat tool sparingly simply because the paste contains moisture, which might warp the vellum. Plus the heat, if you use too much heat, that might warp the vellum as well. So I would not use a heat tool when I'm using a paste unless you want to use it very sparingly, and then just let it air dry. So this is another thing that I wanted to show you. So, okay, so this is the same thing, the belly band that I was talking about, but this one, of course, I added a sentiment. So I showed you the one that had the embellishments, right? I have the embellishment across the belly band, and this one has the sentiment across the belly band. So this is another way you can actually use vellum. And here is another way. Of course, you've already seen me do this a couple of times, is using it over a busy pattern paper, diffuse the design, and then cover it up. So you diffuse it so you can bring the attention to the sentiment. So here is the other way that I've used it. I've just used it on this half or 2/3 on the top, and I've actually stuck it down completely, and I'll show you. If you can see, there's absolutely no glue showing. So this, of course, came with a lot of practice and trial and error and things like that. So you cannot see any glue here. And another way to disguise the seam was for me to add this band across the front, and that also kind of hit because I did glue this part of the vellum onto the card base. So that way I could hide, using this band, I could hide like both the glue as well as the seam. So that was a double thing. So, okay, so now that I have gone through this, if you have any questions, please feel free to chime in any time. So let me just put these away and let me just go back to my work front. And so I think there is one other thing that I wanted to show you actually. And this was something about using embossing folders. Now, this is a 3D embossing folder, okay? And this is from Spellbinders. And I actually prepared a vellum card, just the card base with vellum, and I used distress oxides on this. And I'll show you the coloring part today as well on camera. But I know a lot of people ask me questions. I had done another video on using colored vellum to make card bases. And I received a lot of questions where I was asked about the drying time on the vellum. And I'll show you today in real time how quickly it dries. I think it depends on a few things, which I'll talk about when I get to that step. But the thing about using vellum in 3D embossing folders is I found that the vellum cracks. No matter whether you use a card panel behind it. So I did use a card panel. So if you can see, it's the same thing, right? I had actually used the card panel behind the vellum when embossing it, right? Despite that, the vellum cracked in places. It's not very, very visible, like you can barely tell, but I can see that it's a little bit cracked over here, and it's cracked in a couple of over here. I can see little cracks over here. But the thing is that it will crack because with the 3D folders, there's a tremendous amount of pressure on the vellum. And vellum is delicate. Let's face facts. It is delicate. So with lightweight vellum, there is less chances of it cracking in a regular embossing folder. But with 3D embossing folders, I have tried it a few times and I've noticed that no matter how heavyweight the vellum is, and I use Simon Says Stamp heavyweight vellum, it always cracks. Like it will crack, whether I use it with a card panel behind or not. So I don't know if you have any experience of, being able to emboss in a 3D folder without the vellum cracking. I would love to hear. Like I'd love to hear what type of vellum you were using. So, so that's one thing I wanted to point out. Now let's get rid of all of this, and let me show you the vellum that I normally use. So this is the Simon Says Stamp heavyweight vellum, okay? And this is Spellbinder's lightweight vellum. So if you can tell already, and maybe I'll bring in a piece of pattern paper so you can actually see for yourself how diffusion works on this. So this is the heavyweight from Simon Says Stamp, and this is 40 pounds. This is Spellbinders. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but this one is a little bit more diffused than this one. So the lightweight vellum will obviously create less diffusion, which means obviously it has its, different ways that you can use it. It has its functions, but I love using the heavyweight vellum, especially if I'm heat embossing, because first of all, the heat, and second of all, the amount of embossing you're doing on the vellum are two factors that you need to consider. Because if you are using a lot, like if you're kind of heat embossing a large design onto vellum, then obviously you need to have a good quality vellum, because the more the larger the design, the more heat you need to apply to the vellum to be able to melt that, right? To heat set it. And yeah, so that is what I would say about the two different weights of vellum. I love working with both. This is the lightweight vellum, is great for layering, just simple layering, not if you wanted to create a diffusion effect, right? It's great for shaker cards, like if you don't want to use acetate, but you just want like maybe a bold pattern paper behind, like on the card base, and you use this as your shaker window instead of an acetate. That is beautiful too. It just diffuses the design and it creates a beautiful, elegant look. So that's what it is. So let me know, maybe you can let me know what you would like me to start with. Would you like me to start with showing you the embossing, the heat embossing, dry embossing, or gluing? Which one would you like me to start with? And I can start with that. I'm just waiting to see if I receive any answers, because I know there's a bit of a lag. Any preferences for what I should start with? No, glue. Okay, great. Thank you, Michelle. All right, so for glue, okay, I have all of my stuff organized into these craft stacks, which I absolutely love. Okay, so the glue that I was speaking about. So these are the two glues that I use. This one is the Easy Runner. I don't know if you can see it. This is the Easy Runner. Oh, dry embossing. Sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't see your preferences coming through. So okay, let me just talk about the adhesive and I can go to dry embossing because that there, I got 2 votes on that first. Sorry, Michelle. I'll come back to the glue after. So the glue for this, the Easy Runner is the expensive one that I was talking about. And this I got off of, I think it was scrapbook.com. And of course, I'm in Canada with, I can't remember what the US price was, but I remember it ended up costing me about almost like, I think, $14 or $15 for this roll, right? So this is expensive. And does it do a perfect job? No. And I'll show you in what cases it does. But yeah, so this is one and this is the other. This is the Barely Art glue that I use for everything. This is absolutely fantastic. This is what I use the most. Okay, so let me get started with the dry embossing and show you what I can do with that. All right, so here are my card panels. And again, I have 2 types of card panels that I cut out. One was, okay, here are 2 samples actually. These are the 2 samples that I cut out. So this is the lightweight indicated by the L. So when I embossed it, I used, this was the lightweight vellum. I used the lightweight vellum. I backed it up with a card panel and I'll show you exactly how I do it. And this was how it came out. With the heavyweight, I used, this was Hammermill cardstock, if I'm not mistaken, on both actually. Hammermill cardstock, which is a little bit lighter than the Nina Solar Crest, and then the heavyweight vellum. So this kind of, again, I can see like light kind of cracks in here, but this is what it is. So basically, you need to back your vellum up with paper, with a card panel, if you are embossing your vellum. And like I said, it's best you don't use a 3D embossing folder, but if you absolutely must, then I would say try not to use a card panel behind it. Try it with maybe a lightweight card panel just to kind of, eliminate the extra pressure that you get. So let's try where is my card panel? Sorry, I had everything prepared, but now I am kind of fiddling and fumbling because I'm doing this on camera and I'm nervous. Okay. Let's get this out of the way. Now, usually when I use embossing folders, let me bring my embossing folder over. So this is a regular embossing folder from Spellbinders called Mosaic Memories. And yes, you do need to back it with cardstock. That would give you actually the best results. But it has to be lightweight vellum. So I have exactly the same size, like this is my 2 panel. So I am using the vellum on top of the card panel. And I'm going to just put this inside the embossing folder. And again, this is a regular embossing folder. Normally when I emboss just, cardstock, I would spray it with a little bit of, thanks, Barbara. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. That really means a lot, Barbara. So I would usually spray it with a mist of water, just to kind of make the fibers a little bit more pliable. So that, first of all, helps bring the details out on the card panel, and it also stops it from cracking. Thanks, Michelle. All right, so let me bring my die cutting machine here. And another thing I like to do is just, this is something that it's hard for me to memorize the different sandwiches. So I just write down what sandwich I need to use here. So let me bring my die cutting machine over, and I need to use platform A, platform B, the embossing folder with the vellum inside, and I need to use the C plate. So I have A and B. There goes the embossing folder with the vellum as well as the cardstock, and a cutting plate, the C plate. This is my Spellbinders Platinum 6. And if you have a different embossing machine, you will need to use a different sandwich. So make sure you check with your user manual or just try it out, and you should be able to figure out. Let's get rid of that, and there we go. And this is a 2-for-1, right? Here we are. Let me switch over to the close-up, and you can see that it's embossed beautifully, and there are no cracks, nothing. It's flawless, absolutely. And you have a second panel that you can work with. I usually just save this. I have a little box that I'll just throw all my backgrounds in, my embossed and other backgrounds, and one of these days I'm going to use them up and see what I can come up with. So let me know if you have any questions on this. This was really simple. You saw that. Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, and I love this folder as well, because when I create card fronts with Vellum, the thing that I'm always looking for in my embossing folders, sorry, I have the glare from the light there. What I'm looking for is a non-directional design on my embossing folders, because if it is directional, then it's difficult to create the card base and have it face the right way, right? So for instance, this one is a non-directional. So if I'm making an A2 card base, for instance, and I have like the entire panel of vellum inside, it's going to be non-directional. It's going to fold perfectly, and everything is going to look correct. But there are a lot of folders, obviously, that are directional, and you can't use that for card bases. For vertical card panels, that's fine. But if you have to have a horizontal card panel, then you need to pick up like the correct folder, correct design. So that was the dry embossing. So now let's get back to the gluing, because I definitely want to show you the different things about gluing. So let me bring this back. Oh, actually, well, I have this here. The thing about this glue tape is there's one thing I dislike about, let me see. There's one thing I dislike about this glue tape, and that is it doesn't come with a cover, which means that the tape is exposed, which obviously means that it'll pick up dust and fibers and all of that. So this is one thing I really don't, another thing actually, which I don't find very helpful. But say, for instance, if I just apply the glue, don't tell me it's okay. Of course, it has to glitch just when I'm doing a live. All right, so now I have some glue coming out of here. So if you see, it's actually not very visible. The best way to use this is if you are putting it on white card front. But before I put it onto the card front, if I were to glue it this way, for instance, I know I'm kind of messing this up, but if I were to glue it this way, you can tell the glue lines here. It's so very visible, right? But if I actually use this on a white card front, especially on a white one, it actually disappears completely. Now, if I hold it up, you can't tell where the glue is. So this is really helpful if you just plan on using this on white cardstock. But if you try to use it vellum to vellum, it's not going to work. Or vellum to colored card base, it's not going to work because this is going to show. So this is something to keep in mind if you do want to get this. Like if you primarily work with white, which I absolutely love doing white on white, especially with vellum. If you're doing that, then this would work perfectly. Now, here's the other thing with glue. Let's set this aside. And let me bring in, this is my nonstick paper. And sorry, let me just bring in my glass mat here so it's easy to just hold it down. All right. So say for instance, I have, or actually, let me just use a different example for this. Where did I put my vellum pieces? Sorry, just trying to find, here we go. All right, so pretend I want to glue these, this piece together like this, right? I want to have it and I want to stick this together. So if I apply some glue with my finger, now one trick for this is just kind of, run it around a little bit so you remove the globs of glue and you don't put a lot down in one shot, and just lightly tap it. And then if we glue it together, just hold it for a sec so it kind of sticks, and there's the glue, right? You barely see the glue. And to further disguise it, of course, you can stick it. And to further disguise, now next step would be to apply glue strategically so you can add embellishments and die cuts and other things over it. But if you look at this, it's pretty good. Like if you're sticking vellum to vellum. However, usually we don't stick vellum to vellum, right? If I want to apply it to a card base, so, or maybe to a piece of pattern paper here. Let's take this, and I want to apply the vellum and stick it to the pattern paper. I'll do the same thing, except I don't know where that fruit fly came from. Okay, so I'll do the same thing. I'll just rub my finger in the glue, make sure I don't have any globs, and I'll just apply it to the paper, and I'll stick the vellum down on it. That eliminates, oh wait, hang on, I need a little bit more glue. Sorry, I wasn't lying. I swear this works. Okay, so let's try it again. And I'll just hold it down for a second or two. And now let me switch back to the close-up cam, and you see there is, you don't see the glue at all. It's completely invisible. And all I did was apply a very, very, you see I still have glue on my finger. I applied a very, very thin layer of glue. And the whole idea is to not, use, like make sure you don't have globs of glue. That's the most important thing. And I always conserve these, nonstick papers from my double-sided adhesive and sticker sheets or whatever. And then, that I use it in so many different ways. If you watched any of my videos, you would have probably seen me use it in so many different ways. But this is something, I would recommend holding on to, and use this as your glue, whatever, gluing sheet. So here is the vellum. See, it's stuck pretty good, right? So it is stuck. It's not, I'm not kind of, you know, fooling you with that. So, okay, let's try another thing that I wanted to show you, and that is the double-sided adhesive. So, by the way, this doesn't stick down permanently, I found. Even though this is supposed to be the permanent glue, the easy runner that I used, it has been, I left it aside for a few minutes. I was still able to rip it up. So let me just close this, otherwise it's gonna kind of dry up. There we go. Oh, another thing you can use, sorry, I forgot to mention, my bad. Another thing you can use if you don't want to use your finger is a makeup sponge, right? I already have a little bit. I just use a binder clip. I kind of cut out a little bit of the foam from a makeup sponge, and I just put it into the binder clip like this, and you can just dip it in the glue and apply it lightly as well. So yeah, Michelle says, I've not used vellum much, but now I'm so glad to hear that, Michelle. I just love vellum. It just takes your card to a whole different level the moment you use it. Like even a little bit, like even to layer behind your sentiment or something, it just takes it to a whole different level, really. So yeah, so this is another thing. And one little makeup sponge will go a long way, right? So this is something else that you can use instead of your fingertip. Okay, the other thing is double-sided adhesive sheets. Double-sided adhesive sheets are really great on like behind card panels. If you want, say for instance, I have this card panel, this pattern paper, and I want to stick the vellum down on this completely, right? Actually, this isn't too bad. I can still see these strips of glue behind it, but yeah. If I now use double-sided adhesive on it, it'll be the best way to stick it down if you want the vellum to lie flat on onto the pattern paper. But I normally like to kind of give it a little bit of diffusion because it's a really bold pattern. Let's see if I can rip this off. Oops. Okay, never mind. It just ripped off the corner a little bit, but I can still reuse this paper. So you see, this is a pretty bold pattern, right? And if I were to use this flat, it's not too bad simply because this is the vellum is embossed. And when it's embossed, it's already causing a little bit of diffusion because of all the indentations and things like that, right? But if I want to make the vellum, the design on the vellum visible as well, I will need to give it a little bit of separation from the pattern paper. That will show off your embossing as well as your pattern paper. So the best thing to do would be then is to add a little bit of dimension, and which I will show you again in just a second. I have these die cuts that I've cut out, the sentiment that I've cut out, and I'll show you exactly how I do that. But let's use the double-sided adhesive. Let me move this aside. If I can pull it apart. There we go. Okay. And I always pull back just a little bit to make sure that I don't stick everything down in one shot and then have it all skewed. Okay. So I'm going to line this up properly. And I'm just going to pull this a little bit at a time to make sure that it's well aligned. One thing I should have done, which I didn't actually, I had these lying around and I didn't think of cutting it down a little bit, best thing to do is just cut it down a little short of your card panel, just a little bit, so you don't have glue sticking out from around the edges. So now if I remove and I'm going to hold on to the backing sheets, right? Great use for backing sheets when you're gluing and doing other stuff. Again, I'm just going to remove a little bit at a time. And again, I'm just doing this. I mean, you wouldn't put the embossed vellum onto, actually, why not I use a clean card panel so I can, yeah, that's a better idea. I'll just use this card base that I had created. That way I can actually use this card, like turn it into a card. So I can see a little bit of glue sticking out from here, which I can get rid of. And barring the two stripes, which I'm sure you can see if I switch over to the close-up camera, you can see the two stripes here where I had used the Easy Runner glue. But other than that, you don't see the glue at all. You don't see the double-sided adhesive at all, right? And this is the best thing that you can do, even if you're creating, like if you're using this on colored card base, even then it doesn't show. But if I were to use glue and, like even put it down on the four corners and use the glue with my finger, like a liquid adhesive, and I just use it on the corners, that would also be perfect. It's the same, like, when I showed you that card, let me just bring it out again. This card that I glued the corners with a little bit of glue here. I glued, oh, it came off. Okay, that came off, but I swear I had used a little bit of glue. I don't know what I did, but anyway. So you can do that as well. But let's set this aside and let me show you. And again, this is just demo purposes. So for instance, I want to create a card panel. Let me cut this up. And I'll create an A2 card panel and I'll show you how you can create some diffusion as well. And I want to keep this part of the design. So let me first get that part. And I need about, let's do it this way. So I'm creating an A2 panel. I have a card base that I want to use. I created this tenfold, right? Goes really well with this. Actually, I should have cut it down a little bit more. Maybe I'll cut it down just a little bit, so I have a border. Otherwise, the card base is completely lost. So I'm cutting it down to 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to hold on to these strips because I can decorate the envelope with it after. Yeah, I love this pattern too, Michelle. It's absolutely my favorite. And if you're wondering about this, I couldn't find this anymore, but I had purchased this. It's very thin paper though, but I purchased this on Amazon. Again, it was Amazon Canada, but I'm sure, I think I'd left a link when I had created this card. I'll try to find it on Amazon US and maybe add it to my list of supplies. And by the way, if you're interested in the list of supplies I'm using today, it's up on my blog. I've put a link to that blog post in the description, and you can go and check out all the supplies there. So let's create the card base real quick. Oops. And I'm using glue very sparingly simply because this paper is so thin. I don't want the paper to buckle. It'll start kind of wrinkling up if I use too much glue. All right. And now if I just want to use a plain piece of vellum, let me see. I think I need to cut a piece. Sorry, let me just find my vellum panel if I have a spare one. Oh, I do. All right, so this is the heavyweight vellum. This one is the heavyweight, and this is the lightweight. So if I put the lightweight, you see the pattern is really still pretty bold and visible, right? And what a mess I've made of my work surface. Anyway, so, but if I use the heavyweight vellum, this is a little bit diffused, right? It creates a little more diffusion. Now what I'm going to do is, here is my sentiment. I am going to move this aside for now. And you know what? I think I'm going to use the heavyweight. Let's use the heavyweight. So the first thing I'm going to do is stick the sentiment onto the vellum panel. And I'm going to use another sentiment that you see here to kind of create the separation. So I'm just eyeballing it now. Sentiment layer. By the way, this one I had stacked like 2 layers together. Here's the top layer, and I just took a blank layer and I stuck it underneath to create like a stacked sentiment. So now I have this other one that I can now use. And I'm going to stick it right behind this sentiment here. So it kind of creates a little bit of a lift, a little bit of separation, if you will. It'll lift it off the pattern paper, right? And you see it creates a little bit more diffusion. So now I'm going to apply glue here, and I don't even have to worry about the glue leaking onto the vellum. And the glue helps me just wiggle it into place as well. So, and if you want more separation, you can stack more layers behind the sentiment to kind of lift it off the pattern paper even more. And there you are. This is so easy. Like, and this card came together in such little time, right? Just a few minutes. And then, of course, you can embellish, whatever pearls or gems or whatever you want. And if you don't like this sticking up like that, and remember, I used a little bit of glue, so I'll show you again. Make sure there are no globs. And of course, the whole idea of hiding, rather not hiding, but diffusing the pattern paper is lost if you kind of glue it down like that. The other thing you can do is you can have embellishments all over the panel, and then add glue behind the embellishments. Actually, why don't I do that, and I'll show you. I hope I can still lift it off. Even if it rips a little, it doesn't matter. This is just a demo. Okay, it's come off, luckily. Let me show you what we can do. So I've used silver. Let me find my silver gems. There we are. Okay, I ended up smearing glue all over. So let me get the eraser and clean this up just a bit. There we go. It's all happening in real time. All the mess that I usually make when I'm making cards, you are seeing that in real time. Yeah, I know, Barb. It's absolutely amazing, what you can do with vellum. Okay. All right. I managed to clean that up. Let me just stick this down, and I'll just use the small gems maybe. And I'm going to just spread them out here and there just so I can actually use glue behind it. So this is how you could also accomplish the gluing part. All right, so I think maybe I usually spend so much time playing around with the embellishments that I'm finding it hard to figure out where to put this, because I don't want you to sit here and watch me play around with the embellishments. All right, this one more, just for demo, okay? Don't judge me for the design here, but yeah. So I'm going to just add my embellishments real quick. I would love to hear what you love to do with your cards. Like, what do you prefer doing? Die cutting, stenciling? What kind of technique do you like to use the most? For me, die cut, I love die cutting, but the thing is that I have been creating cards for so many different brands and things that now I find that I don't have a lot of choice but to make cards with what I receive. And but I'm going to do less of those videos now. I want to do more independent stuff. So, okay. So now that we have the embellishments, let's go back and glue it again. Now I have more surface to glue down. So I'll just add little drops of glue right behind the embellishments here. And I want to make sure they're not huge drops because I don't want it to ooze out from behind the pearls. And normally I would allow it to just, oh, I think I used a little too much glue here. Die cutting and stenciling, Michelle. Christelle says die cutting and stencils. Yeah, nice. Okay. I love die cutting too. I haven't used my stencils in a long time. I think I need to break them out again. I used to love stenciling. I love ink blending, but haven't done too much of that of late. Okay, so now I'm just lightly pressing these down, making sure that I don't use too much pressure because I don't want the glue from behind the embellishments to kind of ooze out and onto the vellum. And there we are. So the pattern paper is now more visible and the vellum is also not flapping around too much. Of course, the corners will still lift and everything, but you can, if you want, you can always kind of, use glue, like I said, and kind of glue it down, but I don't mind this at all. I don't mind this at all. So yeah, so this is how you can use embellishments, in fact, to increase the number of spots where you can add your adhesive. And like I said, the liquid adhesive is what I use all the time. I would say 99.9% of the times I use liquid glue, either with my finger or in, like dots or behind the design elements and things like that. Oh, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, the pattern paper does all the work. Literally, really. I haven't done anything, right? So, yeah. So this was, let me just put the stopper on this so it doesn't dry. So this was your gluing. I'm just trying to remember, actually, let me just, if you don't mind, I'm going to just look at my notes to make sure I haven't missed anything for the glue. Design, pattern paper, because I did make a lot of notes for myself. Yeah. Did you want to see me create a belly band by any chance? Christelle, I don't use colored vellum because I just create the colored vellum myself, to be honest with you. I'm so happy to hear that, Michelle. Thank you. Yeah, so I'll show you how I do the coloring. So if you want me to create a belly band, just let me know. I can show that to you. And maybe I can find, I didn't think about it, but maybe I can find a die cut or something that, just a random thing that I can show you. Hang on, just give me 1 second while I get something. Where are all my die cuts? Okay, when I need something, I can't find it. Sorry. Okay, I have found something. Yeah, I will show you how to color the vellum. Okay, so no colors, no takers for belly band. Maybe I can get down to the coloring then in that case. So remember, I was just telling you about the belly band and how you can use different things. So let me just go back to this belly band that I had created. So, you know, where I have this thing attached, you can see this here. So all I'll do is, sorry about the noise. So say for instance, I have this die cut, you know, pretend die cut, whatever. And just to disguise that, if I had used this on the front of the card, and I could turn this around so that you don't have this seam showing even from behind the card, I would just take a die cut and just stick it across the belly band like that. And that's it. And it creates a nice design element. I would keep the card front a little bit on the plainer side maybe. And then I would just add the design element right across the seam here so you don't see it. While, you know, it just makes a beautiful design as well. So that's what I would do. Okay, let's get to the coloring. Let me just move everything aside. Sorry. Make some room for myself. Okay, so for the coloring, what I like to do is I have this sticky map that I actually got from AliExpress. Extremely inexpensive. I think this was probably like a couple of bucks or something. I know you can get these sticky mats on scrapbook.com and Simon Says Stamp, etc. But honestly, you know, this, I think I bought this like at least a couple of years ago before I even was introduced to these big brands. And this, it's still sticky. Look at that, right? You can get, like, you can look on AliExpress or Temu or something and get yourself a sticky mat if you don't have one. The reason I like this is because it's thin. It's really thin, right? Not the photopolymer grip mats, etc. This is really thin. This helps me with heat embossing, which I'm going to show you in just a second. So what I like to do with my vellum when I'm coloring the vellum is stick it onto the mat. That way it doesn't go anywhere, right? And I can lay these down. And I also need a piece of Post-it notes. But let's just start with, oh, I need my foam blenders, sorry. I thought I had them ready. Would you like me to, oh, the Dollar Tree has them. Okay, okay, that's good to know, Michelle. Thanks for sharing that. Maybe I can just blend two colors and I can use these two. I'm using scattered straw and milled lavender, distress oxides. And I have had lots of questions about, you know, the oxides drying. Shoot, I dropped that. Okay. And it's so easy to make your own custom vellum. Seriously, it's not even a joke. You can use dye inks, by the way. And yeah, you can use dye inks on this. I haven't tried with dye ink simply because I like the slightly chalky, hang on. Are you still able to see and hear me? I'm sorry, I'm just getting an error message here for some reason. Would you please confirm that you can see and hear me? Yeah, seriously, Dollar Tree is amazing. Okay, I think the error is gone, whatever that was. I'm hoping that you can see and hear me. Okay, so I'm going to start just applying the color. And I'm trying to keep a watch on the chat to make sure that you're able to see and hear me. Okay, Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for confirming. And I'm not using any magic trick for drying this, and I'll show you exactly how much time it takes to dry. Oh, on and off, Christelle says. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Is that the case for everyone else as well? I wonder what is going on. Sound is difficult. Polly, let me just. And when you say difficult, is it that you don't hear me properly or is it breaking up? I don't know. It's just so weird. I'm really sorry. My apologies. I'll need to go back and check because first time is all. I'm glad that at least you're seeing me on and off. I'm so sorry about that. But if there are any parts that you can't catch, you can come back to the replay and okay, Michelle says it's fine for her. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what's going on. And I apologize sincerely. So for the second color, I'm going to start on the other side just so I don't contaminate my foam blender just yet. And this is a trick I learned from Gina K, by the way. Gina K, my God, she's so amazing. Gina, Jennifer, if they weren't there teaching us, I would never have gotten into card making, honestly. So you just stick your finger onto the sticky band of the Post-it note and just hold your vellum down. That way there are no smudges, no fingerprints, nothing. Okay, Crystal says right now it's fine. Thank God. Do you do heat embossing on vellum? Like if you do work with vellum, do you do a lot of heat embossing? Yeah, thanks, Genia. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm sorry it's breaking up for some of you. Okay, now I'm going to go in and just blend this part out just a little bit. And remember one thing, that when you are ink blending on vellum, it will sit on the surface for a bit because it's not porous like regular paper, right? So that's why we have to be a little bit careful not to kind of smudge the ink, because when you're ink blending on paper, it kind of absorbs into the paper fibers almost right away. Thanks, Polly. Almost right away. So it's not that bad. You don't have to be that careful. But you okay, Christelle said you do heat embossing on thick vellum. Yes, absolutely. Otherwise, it warps. I'm absolutely in agreement with you on that. Lightweight vellum, heat embossing on lightweight vellum is very tricky. Okay, so I am done coloring. And obviously, you can color as much as you like with as many colors as you like. And now, I don't know if you can see, it's already dry. If I touch this, let me switch to my close-up cam so you can see what I'm talking about. Look at that. It's almost dry. I just get a little bit of the film here, but now I can zap it just a bit. I'll mute my mic just a bit so I don't deafen you. I'll just heat up my heating tool for a few seconds before I use it on the vellum. That way there's least exposure on it. So I'll just mute myself for a second. All right. And we just roll it back and lift it off, and look at that. Completely dry. Right? Yeah, it dries really fast. So I get very puzzled when I get a question that, the ink isn't drying. So I'm not sure what exactly goes on. It could be the amount of ink. It could be, yeah, you have to heat emboss vellum very carefully. All vellum, but especially the lightweight. You're very correct, Anne. So yeah, I don't know. For me, it dries perfectly, and I'm able to, like, if I just apply the heat tool for a few seconds and you're watching me real time, it was like literally a few seconds and it's done. I don't like the feel of the ink on the vellum as much. Like, it's a little bit chalky, but if I just turn it over, usually that's what I do. This is even more blended and diffused. Right? Look at that. And now if I pass this through an embossing folder, it is magical. So let me find my embossing folder again. And I'm going to just pass this through without the card panel this time, because I don't have, oh, I do have another card panel that I can use. All right. This is a hammer mill. This is, I think, 100 pounds, probably. And I'll just use the card panel. And again, it's going to be a 2-for-1. Let's move this aside so I can show you the embossing. All right, so once again, I'm using my Spellbinders Platinum 6, so plate A, plate B, the embossing folder with the vellum and the cardstock, and one of the cutting plates. Okay, why is this not going through? Just a second. Sorry about the noise. It's so loud. Okay. Yeah, the type of ink for sure, but I have, Michelle, heard about the distress oxides not drying. So, but I use distress oxide just now. And there we go. Just look at how beautiful this is. Right? And of course you can use either side, right? Maybe I'll switch to my close-up cam again. And look at that. It's gorgeous, isn't it? So, and all you need to do then now, if you want to say, for instance, make a card out of this, yeah, it's just so gorgeous. And all you need to do is score, obviously, turn it into a card base. score at 4.25. But you have to be careful when you're scoring vellum. You have to be light-handed, and that way you don't crack the vellum. And let's just, and again, I'm going to be very gentle when I burnish the vellum. Vellum needs to be handled gently. Let's just face facts, right? And look at how beautiful this is. And obviously you need a note card inside, which you can create with, let me see if I have anything that I can. Okay, now this is a tent folding, won't work. Okay, I don't have another A2 prepared, but pretend this is an A2 card. All you would need to do is, actually, let me just cut this up and show you. This is 4.5. I'm going to cut it down to 4. And this is another place where you can use double-sided adhesive. And I do believe I had another piece of double-sided adhesive somewhere, or maybe not. Okay, let me just quickly get another piece. I am sure, oh, there it is. It was hiding. Okay, so let's do something. I'm going to cut this down again to slightly smaller than 4. Okay, this should be about 5, I think. Not even smaller. 4.5. Yeah, that should work. So this is 4.5 by, sorry, I am lying. That is 3.5 by 4.5, right? So let's get this on. I just love using vellum, honestly. Oops. Why am I not able to get, okay, it's better. Not the side I was trying to get, but it's all right. And let me see. Yeah, right about there should be good. Absolutely, Christelle. Thank you so much. And I will be announcing the live winner, the giveaway winner tomorrow. So I hope you check back and come back to see if you won. Thank you so much for your time and for all your comments and for your participation, Christelle. Thank you. Oops. Okay. That got a little skewed. It didn't get centered, sorry. But this is what you would do, basically. And since this didn't get completely centered, the only way to remedy that would be to just cut this off just a little bit. Just trim it off here on the bottom. And that should work. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Let me just move all this junk out of the way. Yeah. So all we could do right now is add a sentiment, embellish this, and this would be perfect. All right. So if you have any suggestions on what else you'd like to see, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll just do a little bit of heat embossing, and I can then show you the heat embossing bit. Let me find my... Actually, let's heat emboss a sentiment. I have a sticky mat inside my Misty here, and this is what I like to use for vellum, again, because I can stick it down, it doesn't move anywhere, and it's easy for me to even, heat emboss after. So I'll just... And I will use this sentiment. I'll use the happy birthday here, because this is a larger sentiment and I wanted to show you, like a slightly larger surface area that I'm going to heat emboss. So let's do that. And here's my anti-static powder. And I'm just going to use like clear embossing ink. Maybe once more. Let me get a scrap piece of copy paper. And I think I'll use the gold. Okay, I do see some stray embossing powder. So I'll just take a brush and just clean that up once I funnel this back in here. And I have this brush from the dollar store that I like to just use. There's quite a bit of stray embossing powder this time. I don't know why. Okay, this is not going to turn out good. because I would need some time to remove all the specks. So what I'll do is I'll just heat emboss anyway, because again, this is just a demo. The trick that I like to use is, because I have this magnetic glass mat, I like to just have the magnet, it kind of lays flat here. And then I always preheat my tool. And again, I'm going to just mute myself. You'll see me preheat the tool and then apply to the vellum. And I'll be right back once I've switched this off and it doesn't make a racket. All right, I have no idea what's going on with this little speck over here that didn't get embossed. I don't know if you can see the dark little speck. I applied so much heat, but I don't know what happened to that. But it's not even coming off. So, oh no, it is coming off. So it didn't get heat set. But you see, again, I use lightweight vellum, by the way. But just holding it down, if you just hold it down, like if you even tape the vellum down, it really doesn't warp so much. You see? Just a little bit here. What I can do is maybe I will mute myself again, but I'm going to heat set the edge. I'm going to apply heat right across the edge over here. Do you see? It's almost completely straight. I don't know if you can see this better. Yeah. Thanks, Jeannie. Actually, this one is from, the sentiment is from the Greetery. I love their font. Their fonts are great, actually. But yeah, so look at that. It's, you know, it's, the thing is that the way you hold the vellum is going to be very important when you're heat setting. And also, again, I think it was Anne who mentioned it, or someone, about the quality of the vellum. If you're using heavyweight, I unfortunately didn't have heavyweight vellum cut out, or no, this is also lightweight. I don't know why I didn't cut out some heavyweight vellum, like in a small bit, but heavyweight vellum. This is going to be so much better. The trick is, there are two tricks. One is to heat emboss, preheat your heating tool. That is number one. And second is to make sure you're holding it down. And when you hold it down, I've seen a couple of crafters actually use a cookie tray or something, like a small baking sheet or something, from the store, and they just lay the vellum or whatever they're heat embossing on that, and then they heat emboss. They say that, I've never tried it, to be honest with you, but they say that, it doesn't warp as much. The paper doesn't warp as much, or the vellum. So you could try that, but honestly it's basically just holding it down, and again, the way you kind of, the amount of heat that you're applying, if you just preheat your heating tool, I think that's another factor that plays into keeping the vellum straight. It's warped a little bit over here. Again, I'm not using the heavyweight vellum, but you can hardly tell. Right? So, yeah. So, that was another thing that I wanted to show you, the heat embossing. And if you want to use heat embossing on, like, across a larger vellum surface, like say for instance, this isn't vellum, but if you wanted to heat emboss, like a pattern, on create your own patterned vellum, I think you would definitely need a heavyweight vellum, and I would recommend you taping the vellum down onto a flat surface that you can actually heat. Then use your heating tool after on that, because that will help keep the vellum flat while you're applying the heat, and the heavyweight vellum will also warp less under heat. So yeah, I would. Oh, it's my mic causing the problem, you think, Barbara? I'm sorry. Oops. Okay, I would need to go back to the recording to see what exactly happened, because, yeah, I have no clue what you're hearing on your side, to be honest with you. This was a learning curve for me. So I hope the next one will be, way less glitchy. So let's see. So, yeah, that's what I had to show you. And again, I don't know if you have any last questions, because you've been here for a while. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you all hanging out with me this evening, and, bearing with me while I kind of somehow muddled through everything. And yeah, so thank you so much for that. Let me come back on camera. And again, the giveaway, since you've been commenting in the live, I will go back and I'm going to pick a random winner from the live stream. And whoever is watching the replay, I'll also, pick a winner from that. So we'll have two winners, two $25 gift certificates to scrapbook.com. And I will be posting that tomorrow on my community tab at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So if you have been on the live, or if you're watching the replay, please come back and check the community tab tomorrow after 7:30 p.m. So thank you so much again. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Oh, I love that. That made my day. Jeannie, thank you. Yeah. All right. So I wish everybody a beautiful rest of your evening or afternoon or day. I don't know where exactly you're all watching from, but I will catch you in another video very soon. Take care of yourselves, and see you soon. Bye.